Excellent.
I don't know how to. Okay.
Excellent. So welcome everybody to
So we're going to start tonight by talking about editing in PCS Pro. Last week we downloaded a match that we imported at the start, and we're going to be using the same game again. So hopefully you will have managed to either download it again from the link below the video screen, or you've kept the same match from last week. Now if you have kept the same match from last week, we need to import it again because we want to start afresh. We scored that game to the end last week with the Duckworth-Lewis session, so we need to start again at the same point. So what I'm going to do is to log in to PCS Pro, or I'm going to start PCS Pro. I'm not actually going to log in with my username and password. So when you get to the login box, I'm going to click on continue without login. This should take you into the white PCS Pro screen, and I'm going to do the file import. So I'm clicking on the file menu, I go to import matches, and I'm going to click on browse. And when you do browse, you then in the window in the center need to browse to where you saved the file, the .cri file that we had as a link that you could download from Dropbox. So wherever you saved that, navigate in this browse for folder window to that location. I've already set mine to the correct location, hopefully, and then click on OK, and that game should appear in the main window. I'm going to click on the game to select it, click on import at the bottom, and we get an extra box this week. For those of you who were here last week, we didn't get this box. So this is saying, would you like to continue by overwriting the match that we did last week? Overwrite the local copy of this match. So I'm just going to click on continue, and it will overwrite the one we did last week. Was the CRI match exported from Play Cricket Scorer Pro? Yes, it was. It was my version here that I'm using today. So I'm going to click on yes. Hopefully the match will import successfully, and you can click on open match now, and we will once again be at the stage where the notchers who are playing the scratchers are at 167 for 9 of 18.5 overs. So I'm just going to pause briefly there and make sure that most of you are with me. And tonight, as usual, I've got Luke helping out and doing all the technical stuff, and he's looking in the chat window for me. So Luke, if there are any messages about people not keeping up with it, I've turned my chat window off. Okay, I can't see the questions at all because I was getting the sound feedback, and it was the quickest way to get rid of it. So hopefully you're all ready to start. The game you may see where I've got end ball in the middle of the screen, you might see start ball at that stage. If you do, then click on start ball, and you will be at the same stage as me. If you need to click on start ball, most of the rest of the buttons will be greyed out and you won't be able to see what's going on. So hopefully we're now at the same stage. Now this game has been paused for quite a while. That's why some of you will have had to have clicked on start ball. If a game pauses for any length of time, you need to restart it again. So to get into our editing mode today, I'm going to come up with a few scenarios as to why we need to edit. So to start us off, we're going to have paused the game due to an injury to the bowler. So we are at 5 balls through an over, and our bowler has broken down injured. And while that injury is being discussed, you realise that actually you missed a bowling change at the start of the over. So if you look in the control panel in the middle of the screen, you will see that Ethan Johnson is bowling, according to you, or according to me. But it was actually Lucas Evans who bowled this over. And we could undo all 5 balls and put them back in again. But that would be time consuming and actually a waste of our time, because there is a quicker way to do it. And all we're going to do is to click the down arrow in the bowler's name and choose the correct bowler from the list. So I'm going to choose Lucas Evans, and a dialog box will appear asking us whether or not we want to change the bowler for the whole over or not. If we click on yes, it will change the bowler to Lucas Evans for the 5 balls that have already gone and the next one that we're about to record. If we say no, then it won't change the previous 5 deliveries, it will just change the bowler for the last ball. And if we made a mistake and we didn't want to change the bowler, we need to click on cancel. So today I'm going to click on yes. And you will see, if you look in the ball by ball section towards the right side of the screen, you will see that every delivery has now changed to the bowler Lucas Evans. And down at the bottom right, where I have the scorecard, some of you might see a scorebook there, but I've chosen scorecard view, and actually you can change the views by using the tabs. So in my scorecard view, I now see that Lucas Evans has bowled 0.5 overs. So that's our first edit, when we realised part of the way through the over that we'd made a mistake. Really easy. Change the bowler for the whole over and say yes. Now, Lucas Evans is therefore the bowler who is injured, and he's going to go off the field and get some treatment. We could click the down arrow in play state and mention that there had been an injury, but it's useful to do that at the start of the injury and players about to resume, so I'm not going to bother with that now. You could do it, and it will make a note in the innings notes to say when it happened, the time it happened, and the state of play. The reason why I'm not going to do it is the timing will be wrong, because I'm putting it in at the end rather than the start. So I'm just going to type a manual note that says Lucas Evans, let's say he pulled a hamstring and you need to be able to type to do an innings note, and left the field. And I just press enter and it will record that simple note so that I know when he left the field. So now we do need to change the bowler just for that last ball. So I'm going to go through the same process again and say change of bowler. This time it is Ethan Johnson, and he's only going to bowl the last ball. So I will select Ethan Johnson, and this time I'm going to say no to the whole over or the entire over, because those first 5 balls were bowled by Lucas and it's just the last ball that's going to be bowled by Ethan. And you can see now, if I look in the ball by ball section, that the first 5 deliveries are from Lucas, and the last one about to be bowled, we've got a star next to it, so it hasn't been bowled yet. About to be bowled is the bowler Ethan Johnson. Now, we're all set to resume and bowl our 6th delivery of the over. But while all the kerfuffle was going on and the bowler was getting some attention, the batsman had a bit of a chat in the middle, a bit of a game plan chat about what they were going to do for the last over of the game. And when they returned, you notice that the wrong batsman is on strike. So in our screen, if we look over on the left hand side, The striker is Charles Lambert, but you can see that Oliver Mendes is on strike, and we don't actually know why. It may be that they've just gone back to the wrong ends after their chat in the middle. But it could be that we've got some scoring wrong that we didn't notice. So I chat with my colleagues, so I'm going to talk to you and say, who have you got on strike? And hopefully you're all going to say, Charles Lambert. So we don't know, we can't correct runs or correct something when we don't know what happened. But the game is about to restart. Oliver Mendes is on strike. We need to change it and keep scoring. So the easiest thing to do, next to Charles Lambert on the right hand side of his name, is a button that says swap batsman. So I'm going to swap the batsman over, and again I'm going to get a dialog box, and it assumes that there is a reason for us to swap the batsman. The first option is yes, they crossed. So maybe there was a catch on the previous ball and we didn't notice whether the batsman had crossed or not. So we could say yes, they crossed in that scenario. Maybe there was a short run. So we'd put, they'd run 2, but we only needed to record 1. So we could say yes, they'd run short. Or we could just say, we don't know why. So there is no event to add, but we want to switch them anyway. And that's the one that I'm going to click on now. So in my play control window, my batsmen have changed over, but there's absolutely nothing to tell me why. This dot ball will get lost in the middle of my score sheet. It will be hard for me to remember that that is the delivery that I switched the batsman over on. And a lot of scorers who score on paper would underline that delivery so that you know that they are at unexpected ends. I won't say wrong ends, but at unexpected ends. And this hasn't underlined it because we chose the no option to an event. So that leads me nicely into the simplest way to edit, which is the undo button. So in the middle of my screen, next to over and ball in the play control panel, there is an undo button, a curly left pointing arrow. And that will undo the last delivery. It won't undo the switching over of batsmen. I need to take the ball out and put it back in. So I'm going to click on the undo button and say yes to deleting the previous ball and rescore it. So I'm back to the scenario that I had before where I have a dot ball but the wrong person on strike. So now I'm going to switch the batsman over and this time say, yes, they crossed. On my screen, you're probably not going to see it very easily, but on yours, you should see that there is a little underline under the dot. One of the configuration options in PCS Pro is that you can change dots into circles, sort of zeros. And some of you may have already done that, in which case that will show up a lot more. But I like to leave mine as dots so you can't see it very well there. But if I look in the ball by ball window in the centre panel, you can see that my 0 runs there is underlined. And that will help me later on because I will probably check with maybe the team, maybe the umpires at the end of this innings. We're only an over and a ball away from the end of the innings. So I will check with other people at the end of the innings to see what happened. And so I may need to come back to that delivery. And you'll find that it's been underlined in the batsman, whether you're looking at the scorecard or the scorebook, it's been underlined in there as well. I'm just going to now record a dot ball for the end of the over and say, am I sure that I want to end the over? Yes, I am. And I'm going to happily accept Finlay Robinson to bowl the next over. But when we undid the ball, the dot ball, when I was trying to get the underline to appear, it actually undid our change of bowler for the last ball. And if I look back at my over, it has Lucas Evans bowling all 6 deliveries. So we could undo the ball. We could undo the end of the over, we could undo the last ball, and we could go through it all again. But it's actually easier now to do an edit. So editing changes the mode in which you're working. There's a big button in the middle of the screen called edit, and when we want to change anything, we need to click on edit to go into edit mode. But you also have to choose the correct ball that you want to edit when you're in edit mode, and I find it better in a lot of circumstances to select the delivery first. So in the ball by ball window, I'm going to click on ball 18.6 because that was the ball that was bowled by Ethan. I'm then going to click on the edit button. And when I do, the edit button turns yellow, completely yellow, not just a yellow border, which will highlight the fact that we are now in edit mode. The ball that we are editing is highlighted in blue in the ball by ball window. So just double check all the time you are editing the correct ball. We're editing ball 18.6. Any buttons that have turned yellow in the scoring panel will indicate how we scored that delivery. So you can see that the 0 is in yellow, which is correct. We're not going to change what happened on the delivery, just who bowled it. So all we're going to do is change the bowler like we did before. So using the bowler's name, click the down arrow, choose Ethan Johnson, and we get a similar question to the one that we had when we were just in the main over and not in edit mode. Do we want to change the bowler for the whole over or just this one delivery? So I'm going to say no to the whole over because I only want to change the bowler for this one delivery. Now you can see that Ethan Johnson appears to have bowled ball 18.6, but Lucas has still bowled the previous 5 deliveries. You do have to remember to come out of edit mode. You cannot keep scoring until you have come out of edit mode. So you need to click on the yellow edit button again, and we will be back to normal. I'm going to score the final over of the match, and I'm going to score it as 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 again. 1, 2, and 3. Am I sure I wish to end the over? Yes, I am. And also, it's now the end of the innings. We were in a 20-20 match, so we've reached 20 overs. Would I like to end the innings? Yes, I would. So at this point, I would talk to the umpires, I'd talk to my colleague, I might talk to some of the players, and we're just going to check that everything's okay. And in talking to the bowler, I find that not only did I miss the bowling change in that last over, in over 19, Lucas actually came on to bowl the over before from that end. So if I scroll down in the ball by ball window, over 17 is bowled by Ethan Johnson, but actually that over 2 was bowled by Lucas. So we don't have to change each delivery separately. We can do one edit for the entire over. So click on any ball in the over. It doesn't matter which ball. Click on the edit button to take us into the edit mode. Now we are getting an extra box this time because the innings has ended. And every time we go into edit mode, once the innings has ended, we would just get that warning to say, the innings has ended, do you really want to do this? And the answer is yes, because most of the time that's when you will be checking your figures and that's when you will have time to do the edits. So once again, I'm just going to change the bowler. So I happen to have clicked on ball 16.4. You might have clicked on a different delivery, but you can see in the scoring window the 4 is in yellow, so we know that there was a boundary 4 off this ball. I don't need to change any of that. I'm just going to change the bowler. So I'm going to change the bowler to Lucas Evans again, and this time I'm going to say yes to change in for the entire over. And every delivery in the ball by ball window has now changed to Lucas Evans. And down in the scorecard window, you can see that Lucas Evans now has bowled 1.5 overs. So I need to come out of edit mode again, and that takes me back to the end of the innings. So our next edit is to change what happened on one of those deliveries. So if we look at ball 18.5, this was the one where it all went wrong and we had the wrong batsman on strike. So in chatting to the umpires and trying to find out what happened, they told us that there was a late single taken. They didn't realise that the bowler was injured and they snuck in a late single, and we were all too busy watching the bowler who'd just broken down. So that's why we had the wrong batsman on strike. So we need to change ball 18.5 into a single. So follow the procedure through again. We select the delivery. We click on the edit button. Yes, we're sure we want to go into edit mode. Now, over in the score panel, we have a yellow 0 because this was entered as a dot ball. You don't need to undo that entry. We can only make one entry for this delivery. So whichever of these runs that we click on, runs, extras, whatever they are, the delivery will change to that value. So if I click on one run, ignore this box for a second, the yellow highlight has moved to the one run and it has gone off the 0. Now, we do need to look at the autocorrect box. So if we change a dot ball into a run, it will affect who is on strike for the next delivery. And PCS Pro is very good at correcting all of the subsequent deliveries for you. But don't just accept what it says. You need to look in this autocorrect window and make sure that it's doing what you want it to do. And it's in reverse order. So our ball by ball gives us our latest delivery, whereas this one, it is going, sorry, my mistake, it's going in the same order. I think it goes the other way, but it's not. It's going in the same sequence as the ball by ball window. So 18.5 at the bottom is the one that we've changed. Anything in black we have changed. Anything in red will change if we accept autocorrect. Now normally you would want to select autocorrect, but we switched the batsman manually. So if we look in our ball by ball window, if Charles Lambert faced a single, then Oliver Mendes would be on strike for the next ball, so that's correct. If we go with our autocorrect window, Charles Lambert faced a single and he faced the next ball in this window, which is not right. So I'm going to click continue without autocorrect, only because we manually switched the batsman. So now if I come out of edit mode, everything is back to normal, and I've got 1 run correctly to Charles Lambert with Oliver Mendes facing the next ball, and we know that we've got everything correct. It doesn't remove the underline on the 1, sadly. So, is everybody reasonably happy at the moment? I can't see the chat window. Luke, are there a lot of questions?
At the moment, there's no questions.
Oh, that's really good. That means you're all keeping up, and we can move on to...
let's give them a second because of the delay. Let's give them a second for questions to come through. There has been some discussion about the typed injury note being removed. I just wondered if you had anything to weigh in on that.
The typed injury note was removed because we deleted the ball on which it was typed, and the notes are linked to deliveries, and we actually I clicked on undo and said delete previous ball, and it removed ball 18.5 at the time, which had the note on, and I didn't put it back in. Once you start clicking on undo, you do need to remember to redo all the things that you had done on a previous delivery.
Sounds good. Everybody's coming back with positive notes, so don't think there are any questions.
We'll keep ploughing on then, because I've got lots more edits for you to do. So, our next edit is in the final over, and I just want to do an edit that will cause autocorrect to kick in, and we're going to accept it this time. So on ball 19.4, so our 4th delivery of this over, they actually ran 2, not 1, so we're a run short. So we're going to click on ball 19.4, click on the edit button again. You're all getting used to this now, I'm sure. Say yes to enter into edit mode, and just like we changed the 0 into a 1, I'm going to click on 2 to change the 1 into a 2. I could change it to extras if needs be, but we're going to go for 2 runs. Now this time when I look at autocorrect, I'll put it next to the ball by ball window so I can compare the two. If Charles Lambert scored 2 runs, he should be facing the next 2, and therefore the last 3. Whereas in my window, if Charles scores 2 off this ball, the wrong person will be on strike for the next one. So this time I am going to say autocorrect, and most of the time we would say autocorrect. And I'm going to come out of edit mode, and you will see now Charles Lambert faced all 3 of the last deliveries. So while we're changing values of deliveries and we're changing the order in which things happen, and while we're talking about the final over, I think we were a bit off-put by the injury and having to change the striker, so our scoring in this final over hasn't really been up to scratch. So we actually missed a no ball. The umpire comes to us and says, "You did get my no ball signal in the last over, didn't you? I didn't see an acknowledgement, so you did get the no ball signal. It was on the 3, the first 3 in the over." And in chatting to him, you say, "Well, I only had 6 deliveries, so where was the extra delivery?" And he says, "Well, there was a dot ball after the 3. There was a 3 off a no ball and then a dot ball." So we've got a little bit of editing to do in this over now. So let's start by editing the no ball onto this delivery. So we select delivery 19.3, go into edit mode, yes I'm sure, and 3 runs off a no ball is just one separate button. We don't have to add the no ball to the 3 already scored. We need to select the correct item instead. So 3 runs off a no ball is in the section under scoring on the right hand side. So there's my 3 runs off a no ball. But I also need to insert a dot ball after this one. And I can do multiple edits before I come out of edit mode. Now normally I would advise you to do each edit separately, come out of edit mode and double check with a colleague the consequences of doing that. Double check that you've got things correct. But for today, and because the 2 things are linked together, I'm going to do both changes before I come out of edit mode. So we need to insert a ball before ball 19.4. So I'm going to click on ball 19.4, but I'm going to right click on it. You can't see that from the screen, so I'm right clicking to bring up a sub menu. And on ball 19, sorry, on the sub menu, I've got an option to add a ball and to insert a ball. The difference is that insert ball will insert a ball before the delivery that I'm on. Add a ball will insert an extra ball at the end of the over. So I'm going to choose insert ball. I've now got both balls highlighted. The old ball 19.4 has been renumbered 19.5, and I have a new 19.4 which has 0 runs scored off it. And that's correct, it was a dot ball. If there were runs off it or extras, I could select the correct runs or extras in the scoring panel first. But a dot ball is correct, so I'm just going to click on edit to come out. So fairly simply, I have added a no ball to the 3 runs and also inserted a dot ball in the correct place in the over after the 3. It's very important to insert the balls in the correct place. It affects how many deliveries a batsman has faced. Now, as it happens, Charles Lambert faced the rest of that over, so if we'd have added it in at the end, wouldn't have affected his ball count. But these days, scoring doesn't always happen alone, and quite often you might have an analyst, or as a scorer you might be operating a video camera as well. And if you do have cameras connected to your scoring, then it is very important to get the correct sequence of deliveries so that the right runs match back to the right footage. So we're also now going to make some changes in the 18th over. So I'm going to scroll down in my ball by ball window, and we've been told that this dot ball that's in the middle actually happened at the end. Don't quite know how we got it in the middle there, but there's no dot ball in the middle, there was a dot ball at the end, and we do need to make this sequence of deliveries correct. So we could go down and change each delivery to be the right one. I could change this to a 1, then that one can stay as a 1, and change this one to a 0, but that's messy. It would be much easier for me to add a ball at the end and delete the extra ball that I've got in the middle. So I'm going to do just that. So if I click anywhere in over 18, I happen to have clicked on 17.4. Go into edit mode. Yes, I'm sure I want to do it. I'm going to right click on that delivery, and this time I'm going to say add ball, and you will see that we've got a 17.7 now at the end of the over. Once again, it is a dot ball, but I could click on these runs if there was runs scored off it. But I need now to delete my dot ball that's in the wrong place. So I'm going to right click on 17.4. This time it's important to click on the right delivery because it will delete the one that's highlighted. And from our shortcut menu, I'm going to select delete ball. It does give me a warning. Am I sure I want to delete it? Yes, I am. And now we're back to a 6 ball over quite correctly with the deliveries in the correct sequence. So I can click on edit to come back out of edit mode. Now, earlier in this session, we got into a bit of a muddle with our bowlers, Lucas Evans and Ethan Johnson. And to be fair, they look really similar. I'm always getting them in a muddle. And if you look in the scorecard, you might have to scroll around a bit if you've got a scorebook. But if you look in the scorecard, you can see that, according to our scorecard, Lucas Evans took a catch. He caught Vishnu Herath. But in chatting to the players afterwards, it wasn't Lucas, it was Ethan. I got them muddled up again. So we can change wicket details without having to delete the wicket. But I need to know what delivery that happened on. Otherwise I've got to scroll all the way down this window and try and find the ball. So I'm going to look over on the very right hand side where my fall of wicket section is. And I can see there it says that the 8th wicket fell at 108 and it was Vishnu Herath off ball 17.6. Sorry, 12.6. This time I'm going to go into edit mode before I select the ball. I could scroll back to ball 12.6 in here. But another way to do it, especially if you've got a long match and you've got a long way to scroll, if I go into edit mode first and say yes, I'm sure I want to edit, to the left of the edit button there are 2 fields for overs and balls, and I can use these to select the delivery that I want to edit. And I know now from the fall of wicket section that it was 12.6. So if I select the over to be 12, at the moment I'm on 19.7 because there was a no ball in this over. If I go to over 12, there isn't a ball number 7 in over 12, so it's dropped onto the last ball of the over, which is the correct one. If that wasn't the correct one and it was 12.4 or something that I needed, then I would click the down arrow and select the correct ball. But 12.6 is correct, and you will see that it's jumped in the ball by ball window to my selected ball. This was a wicket delivery, and so my wicket button has changed from red to yellow to highlight that a wicket happened on this delivery. And if I click on the wicket button, it will let me back into the wicket details box to change anything at all in that box. I could change the dismissal type, I could change anything in there. So I'm just going to change the catcher's name to Ethan Johnson. Now, if you click the down arrow in the catcher's name, or the primary fielder, if you scroll to the bottom of the list, there is an unknown in that list, because we don't always know who took a catch, especially if you're scoring alone and the opposition are fielding. You might not know who took that catch. So at the time you can just go unknown and then come back in an interval like we're doing now, go back and edit this delivery and put the proper catcher's name in. So I'm going to put Court Johnson. I had recorded a fielding position originally. These are optional. There is a fielding report that you can pull off from the statistics menu to say where fielding events happened. So you might want to change that. If it wasn't deep extra cover, you can click the down arrow and change it to long off or wherever you want. While we're in the wicket box, you might wonder why we've got assistant fielders, and it's purely and simply for scorecard information. It's the primary fielder who gets allocated with the catch. But just occasionally there's some athletic fielding on the boundary, and you might find that a player runs round, tries to catch the ball, can't quite do it, keeps it in play, sort of throws it up in the air, and another fielder has run out and caught the ball. So it's the fielder who catches the ball who will be attributed with the catch, but you might just want to put the other fielder's name in to recognise that he helped. So you could then click in assistant fielder and name the fielder. It's doing nothing other than putting his name on the scorecard. Only the primary fielder will be attributed with the catch. The same goes for run out. You can name more than one fielder if they were involved in a run out, but it's the person in primary fielder who is attributed with that dismissal. So I've changed my catcher's name. I'm going to click on edit. You have to remember to click on edit to come out. And now if I look in my scorecard, Vishnu Herath was caught, Ethan Johnson. So our last few edits are not using the edit button. Sometimes we're going to make changes where we're not actually changing a delivery. We're changing things to do with people's names more. And one of the things that can happen is that you might have been given the wrong name. Now, you should be given a team sheet at the start. I say should be, and in a lot of games I think it does happen as per the regulations, but there are occasions when the team sheets don't make their way to the scorers and you don't know exactly who is playing. So it could be that you have an incorrect match player, and we're now at the end of an innings, so there's a fair chance whoever we've got named in this scorecard somewhere has taken part in the game. So in our instance, Jack Horton, who you can see we have as batting at number 3, Jack Horton's not playing. The number 3 batsman was George Wilkinson. So we are going to do this by clicking on scoring, the scoring menu, and match details and teams, where it lists both teams. Oops. So Jack Horton is on the right hand side playing for the Notchers, and if I hover over a name, it will just give me a list of the last 5 games that player played. It will tell me a little bit more about them. Tells me whether they're left-handed or right-handed, if they've been designated that way. Tells me whether they're a wicket keeper, things like the play cricket ID. The most useful thing is usually the last 5 matches played when you're trying to identify a player. If they've got a very similar name, you might have 2 names in the same team that are very similar and you don't know which one to select, but you know this person played last week, so that will help you to identify whether you've got the right one or not. It's just a pop-up window that comes up if you hover over a name and goes away when you move away again. But I know that it's Jack Horton we need to remove, so I'm going to click on Jack to select him, and he goes into that same blue colour that our delivery went in when we selected it. I cannot remove him. If I look underneath the Notchers team list, the remove button is greyed out. I cannot remove him because he has taken part in the game. But I can replace him. But rather than do a straight replace, before I do that, I just want to click the down arrow to talk about what else we could be doing. So the first option, replace, is a straight replace when you have the wrong player. And that's what we'll do in a moment with Jack Horton. We selected the wrong player originally, so we're just going to replace him. But in match regulations these days, it quite often allows for something called a concussion substitute. And that's a specific thing. If a player has been hit on the head and has suspected concussion, they must leave the field for treatment, and they are not allowed to take any further part in the game, but you are allowed in a professional game to have a like for like replacement player. So we would, if that had happened, we would select concussion substitute. Also in a professional game, sometimes you are substituted for another reason. Generally doesn't happen in league games. With league games, you tend to have the 11 players that you went out there with and you don't have a substitute. But it is possible in some games to have a substitute. So whether it's a concussion substitute or a general substitute, if we select one of the two substitutes, the original person will remain in the game because they have taken part up to this point. So Jack would remain in the game having batted at number 3, but he would not be allowed to take part in any further or events in the game. He would not be allowed to select a bowl. And our new person would be allowed to bowl. But we're just going to click on replace. And it's going to give us a list of other players listed for our team, which in this instance is Notchers. And there is only one other player. Thankfully, it's the one we want. So it's George Wilkinson. Again, you've got the window that says, has he played in any games? No, he hasn't. But it gives you a little bit more information. If this is your league team, you would have a list of league registered players. And if your competition, if your league insists on players being registered in play cricket, then you would only see those that are league registered. If your league doesn't do that, you would see the entire list of your team's players. So I'm going to select George. I'm going to click on add. And he replaces now, he replaces Jack Horton at number 3. And if I click on save, he has replaced Jack Horton in the scorecard. Simple as that. And if he had taken any catches, if it was the field inside, if he'd taken any catches or bowled, he would just be substituted in wherever you saw Jack's name, you would now see George. So it is really a very simple process. Now sometimes we might need to change the wicket keeper. And in our instance, we have Jacob Smith listed as the wicket keeper, but this side has batted and he hasn't kept wicket yet. When you're setting up PCS Pro, you have to designate the captain and the wicket keeper before you can start scoring. And there are occasions when you're struggling to get the information out of the opposition and they don't know who's going to keep wicket at that point. You're struggling to find out who the captain is and you just have to select somebody. So that's what happened here. We thought Jacob Smith was going to keep wicket and you now find out in the interval that he is not going to keep wicket. So we go back into scoring, match details and teams, and there's a drop down arrow for wicket keeper, and I'm going to select that drop down and change it to Thomas Hobbs. Now once again we get a dialog box asking whether or not we want to replace the wicket keeper for the entire match, or is this a substitute wicket keeper. Now in this instance we want to change him for the whole match because we just picked the wrong one in the first place. But there are occasions in the middle of an innings when a wicket-keeper changes over. If you're a bit short of bowlers one week, you might find that your wicket-keeper starts keeping wicket, but then when your opening bowler has bowled his allocation of overs, they switch over. Or maybe your wicket-keeper gets injured, so he goes off and somebody else has to replace him. If that happens, then you would select substitute existing keeper. So you would get 2 keepers named for the game. But in this instance, we just want to change him for the whole match, so I'm going to click on replace. And it's changed the name of the keeper for me. But also, this game is full of injuries. Noah Burns was the captain, and he captained all the way through the first innings, but he's really not feeling very well at the moment. So he's not going to take the field, and the vice captain is going to take over from him. So the vice captain is Edward Collins. So if I click the down arrow in the captain box and choose Edward Collins, I get the same dialog box as for the keeper. And this time I'm going to say substitute, because we didn't pick the wrong person. Noah did captain in the batting innings, but Edward Collins is going to captain for the bowling innings. And you can see that it's now named 2 people on the captain line. Now I've made some substitutes, I can click on the player role substitutions option, which is at the bottom left hand corner of this dialog box. I actually only made 1 substitution. The keeper was a straight replacement because I'd selected the wrong person. But our captain there is listed as a substitute. And if I want to change anything, then I can. I could click on this one and say, oh no, I want to remove that. Noah's feeling better, he is going to take the field, it's fine, I don't need to replace him. So I could delete my substitution, or if I had replaced the player as a concussion substitute and it was a normal substitute, then I could change it in here. Whatever your substitution type is, you can change it in the drop down list. I'm not going to change it or delete it. I'm going to leave it where it is and click on save. Now that is the list of edits that I wanted to go through, and it's actually taken us quite nicely up to 8 o'clock. But are there any questions, Luke, in the chat window?
Again, there aren't really any questions, but I'm sure that there'll be some through in a minute. So in the meantime, I wondered if you had any thoughts on the following comment that came through. We have team cards. We ask our clubs to upload them to play cricket for the results to be cross-checked, especially against player names.
I'm not understanding that fully. You ask them to be uploaded to play cricket. I'm not quite sure how you can upload a team card. It is possible in play cricket, and it is the recommended procedure to select your team in play cricket before the game starts. And if that happens, then the team will download with the correct players, theoretically the correct players, that obviously might change on the day. I'm not quite sure how you can upload, unless you can upload a document as an attachment.
We've got 2 questions through at the moment. The first is, could you please tell us how to completely delete a note?
I certainly can. So if you make an innings note, let's just say that I made a note about a drop catch. Who have I got fielding? So I made a note that there was a drop catch by Leo Taylor. I made it at the end, but it didn't actually happen on ball 19.7. If I click on my innings note, I need to click on the 19.7 twice, and I could actually attribute it to a different delivery. So now that's moved down in the order. So if there was a drop catch on ball 18.4, but I think that's a little harsh, and I don't really want it printed on the scorecard or appearing in the notes that might appear on Play Cricket. I've got two options about it. I can right click on it and choose hide from official notes, in which case only I can see it. It's there for my purposes and it's not going to appear on any printouts, but also you have the answer to your question, which is delete. So I can click on delete and it will remove that note from my innings notes.
Thank you. The next question is, what about editing the wagon wheel, please?
Okay. I didn't record any wagon wheels. I don't think I did. Let me scroll down and have a look. I'm fairly certain I didn't. No. So, if I select a delivery and I click on edit, when my wagon wheel appears, if I had recorded wagon wheels, the line would appear on here showing where I had placed the line. And I simply click where I want the line to go. So you can see I'm now retrospectively adding where this shot went. And it's just a question, like you change the runs, clicking in the correct location, and the line will move to that point, and then you can come out of edit mode and hopefully that will stay there.
The same person who asked about the deleting notes says there are greyed out deletes on the lower notes.
Okay, some of the notes are automatic notes. So things like the power play, when you get a team 50 or an individual milestone, when they come up, those are all automatic. And no, you can't remove them. They are set there because they are part of the system and it's not possible to delete them. You can hide them, stop them from printing, but you cannot remove them.
Okay. Slightly different one. How did you edit the infamous Ben Stokes 6 when he ran 2 and then return a throw, hit his bat and went for 4 in the World Cup final? And just before you answer that, the person who asked about the deleting notes says, got it, thanks. So that did answer the question.
In answer to the World Cup, we didn't edit. We recorded what happened when the umpire signalled to us. So we waited. There was a lot of debate going on the field of play, and we waited until we saw a signal from the umpires. And then we recorded what the umpire signalled to us, so there wasn't an edit to be made. I was going to say we're slow. We're not slow. We are cautious when scoring in a public view. We try and make sure that our entries are correct. So we would rather that the scoreboard was slightly slow in updating, but was done accurately. So when you see 2 runs, you don't put them on straight away. And I would recommend that in normal play, you wait until the ball is dead, always, because there can be extra things, there can be overthrows, there can be signals from the umpire. So always wait until the ball is completely dead before you make your entry. And that's all we did on that day. Any other questions? If not,
There doesn't seem to be.
Excellent.
No more questions. Some lovely comments. Thank you, everybody. But
Thank you
doesn't
very
look like
much.
there's any more questions.
So we will wrap it up in a moment then, but I have one piece of news for you before we go. So when you log on to PCS Pro tomorrow, you will have to do an upgrade to PCS. We are expecting an overnight update. So version 3.0.4 is due out today, and unless they change their minds overnight, I would expect you to have to do that upgrade tomorrow. And upgrades will be compulsory, so the next time you log into PCS Pro, you will need to say yes to do the upgrade. Now, to do an upgrade, you need to open PCS Pro from the menu and not from a shortcut on your desktop. If you do it from the shortcut on your desktop, you won't be allowed to log in because you won't have done the upgrade. So hopefully you'll be able to do that upgrade tomorrow, and there'll be a few changes. And hope in the next few weeks, that's one of the things that I hope to be able to bring you. We'll go through and talk about what some of the upgrades have been between version 2 that you used last year to version 3 that you would have hopefully used this year, and maybe we'll get some play later in the season and you will get to use it.
Just before we go, further to the Ben Stokes question.
Yes.
So Ben Stokes was recorded as having hit a 6 or as having run all 6?
He was recorded as having hit a 6 because there isn't an all run 6 option. There isn't, or is there? Now you've got me thinking. There's an all run 4, but 6s are 6s. So yes, it was just put in as a 6. So if there are no more questions, I hope you found that useful. We all make mistakes, doesn't matter what level of cricket you score at, we all make mistakes, and we all need to know how to edit things as quickly as possible. So I hope you found that useful, and I hope we'll be back with you another week to talk about another subject. Thank you very much.